Focus on the less. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel it's a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming in December 13th, 2021, and this is the biggest week for the stock market. We are getting the final Federal Reserve meeting this week, and it has a lot of implications, and it is pretty much going to red light or green light the end of the year rally, as well as give us a lot of guidance for 2022. So this week is going to be exciting. We're coming off of the CPI, and we're at all-time highs. There's probably going to be a lot of volatility. The last 3 days before this, we kind of chilled out. The week before that, it was a little bit rocky. So there should be some excitement, and we are going to be getting a lot of other economic data at the same time. So we got a lot to talk about. I want to go over everything that happened on Friday and the weekend. Then I want to go over the plays. And actually, we're going to do this watch list a little remixed. I'm actually going to start with the plays, and then we're going to get into the analysis on Powell, what to look for and all of that, because there's a lot of different things we got to look at, and then we still got a bunch of other plays to watch. So let us not delay. You guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. We better see you there in the morning. It's free 99. It costs you nothing to join. YouTube.com/the-stock-market. You can post the plays, see the plays, watch us come to life. And yes, if you're going to be thinking about Jerome Powell on Sunday night before you go to bed, then yeah, we are the place to be. And the most important thing you need to do, post your watch below. Let us know what you're looking at. Got any plays, comments, remixes, anything. Post them below and source that info. Chat at the chat, baby. And please do not forget, today is Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday. That's usually how it works, but this is the random account generator. We started this, it's almost been like 2 years now, with $500. And what we ask on this watch list, you post a random strike price, expiration date, all of that. Tomorrow morning, we do a random comment picker. We pick the play, keep it below $100, and then we see the results, and you can see we're hanging alive there, baby. So thank you for posting and keeping it alive, Chad. But right off the bat, we're gonna get into the plays. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff we're gonna need to cover. There was a lot of news, and some of them will relate to the plays, but I even do have an expectation. I think this next 2 days, and even after the Fed, there is gonna be a lot of opportunity. So there is a couple companies that I am gonna be watching, but one thing I'm gonna be watching out for, middle of the week with Powell, pretty much after then, that could kill a lot of premiums, and it could make a lot of things move up and down. So coming into the first play, I'm going to be going here with Airbnb. They had amazing news with a couple of other companies like Fortnite and Zscaler, and I think Datadog, but Airbnb is getting added to the NASDAQ 100. I'm liking this because it might set up a range for the stock, and like I'm saying there on Wednesday, we might get a little bit of volatility, but I think even after the Fed passes, this is going to be good. And here's the best part. December 17th is the addition date. So they're going to be removing a couple of companies and then adding them to the NASDAQ 100. So on that date, December 17th, we should see some movement and some rebalancing. So as far as the play, I'm still holding those Januaries. And now this is the thing you got to watch. The Januaries a little bit further out the money. Those ones are down. The ones closer to the money, they've held up kind of, but they're pretty much back at these pre-earnings levels, even though the stock's up about $30. And even then, that is my range on this stock pretty much for the next quarter or two. I'm thinking that Airbnb, you're going to have a 20% upside or 20% downside. So even when it comes to adding to the long term, I mean, it's pretty much like $150 to the $200 level. And that's why I'm hoping this NASDAQ 100 edition could add something to it. But keep those levels in mind. And what I'm saying with the premium, January is down, but the April ones, even a little bit further out the money, these are holding up. So they're back above the pre-earnings price. During the volatility, they went under there a little bit, but even after this move, the time decay, the volatility, they are still holding up. So depending on how this moves tomorrow and even throughout the week, again, to even make a play on this, we could use the Powell volatility to our advantage. So watch in between January and April. You could go a little bit longer. Our leaps are holding up there, but I am going to be focusing on these two different time frames. So that is the first play coming into into the second play, I'm going to be watching Ford. And honestly, on Friday, it was absolutely insane. So I really just think it might be time now for Ford to become the next really deserving, quote unquote, next Tesla. I hate even saying that because there's the next one always sucks. Okay, let's be real here. But Ford, they got a lot going for them. There was even a couple of pieces of news over the weekend with Mach-E demand and all of that. But again, what they did on Friday was insane. And I'm thinking coming into this year, especially with them paying the dividend, again, this is why this week will be so important, because depending on if we get red light or green light, some of these plays that have done good, if they come down a little bit, we may be able to set up for the next year, and these ones could be hot. But I'm really liking Ford. We saw what happened to Lucid a couple of weeks ago, and people are like, yeah, the next Tesla, all of that. I'm just liking the news. I have no option plays. All I have is the shares. So this next coming weeks, even this week, depending on the volatility, I'm going to hopefully be able to get an entry on one of the options. So keep your eye out for Ford. And then finally, the third and final play, another long-term addition that we have, but ABNB, I think it'll be crucial this week. Again, you're going to get that Fed volatility, but this stock shouldn't be breaking out like this. We just added this to the long-term a month or two at like 107 or 109, and now it's already back up to 125, 126. But here's the key about that. That is an all-time high for this stock. So we've seen it a couple times. We've seen it get a little bit volatile. It's broken out slightly above and then kind of came back down, remember, earlier in the year. So them coming up here, this beats that 2018 all-time high. I think they just got to find which range they're going to stay at. And like I'm saying, with some of the value and how we're ending up this year, I mean, healthcare has been doing good the last couple of days. They're leading. We love them. I'm going to keep an eye and even see if we get any craziness. It could be a decent option trade, but ABNB is pretty hard to trade on the options, so you got to watch out for that one. But coming into the rest of the plays and everything that we did on Friday, I mean, I didn't do much. We did flip those oracles, if you guys remember. Here's the cleaner view of everything, but we sold those January oracles. This one was like a 200% gainer. That play was down, but we got about $1,000 of profit, and towards the end of the day, I rolled into 50 oracles for January at 11 cents. But keep your eye on Oracle, even Broadcom. I made a play on this one in the morning. I got fat fingered again with the little lock. If you guys aren't familiar on TD Ameritrade, like if you go to place an order, I think if it's locked, it makes it so that it fluctuates in a range. But this here, pretty much even if you're on a limit, it will make it like fluctuate with market changes. But I've been clapped on that a couple of times. I think I really need to figure it out, but I really still like the Broadcom. These plays even went down, but gonna be watching them in Oracle. Remember, both of them had good earnings on Friday, but these are kind of part of the high inflation plays. The ones with high margin, both of those are on the list. Even ABNB is as well too. Those are some that we might see a lot of steam coming into the end of the year, no matter what happens. So keep your eye out for them. But those were the only other plays that we made. We took some profits on some other plays. Again, those Costco's, they ended up running. That was a loss. Or the Microsoft, those kept going. And I'm still holding the IWM and those SPY puts, if you guys remember. Same thing with the Tesla stuff too. Again, we even have NVIDIA calls that are down. And now the plays I showed with you today, we'll see tomorrow if we get set up on more upside. But pretty much still just holding everything from last week. There's still the puts I'm going to be writing. We still got calls. Remember those Microsofts. I sold off of that one set, but remember we had the second set. Microsoft woke up. Those are now positive now. So I'm hoping this volatility could give us a way to sell out of the calls when we're up, or the puts, whichever one comes first, and then balance around and go back and forth. So those are the main plays. As far as everything else, we'll go over the rest of the stocks, but now let us get into the keys for the day. So again, coming into tomorrow now, there's going to be a lot of different plays here, but things are looking pretty chill. So there was one piece of weird news that just came out. The South African president actually tested positive for COVID. So if that kind of spooks things, then we could be a little bit negative. Otherwise, a lot of the currencies, even right now, the futures with Japan, Europe, everything is looking chill. And a lot of people are really going to be focusing on Powell. And again, that upside that we saw on Friday, it still may carry over. So tomorrow, as long as there's no negative headlines, we may be able to run. And now the market is really expecting Powell to announce a faster taper. So we've even talked about it on the weekend video. We're going to talk about the taper tantrum and all of that, but the market is firmly pricing in that Powell is going to speed up the taper. So we got a couple of different things to talk about that. I'll get that here in a little bit, but even for the rest of the week, you're going to hear a lot of central bank headlines. There is 20 different central banks that are going to be making decisions. So everywhere from Japan all the way down parts of the UK, Peru, Brazil. I even think Russia as well too. So we're going to hear a lot of back and forth. A lot of them are going to be doing opposite things, but Powell will be the biggest driver for our markets. However, some things may come up, but I'm assuming Powell is probably going to take over everything. So coming into your first pretty picture, this chart right here is actually showing you the yield curve, and it's showing you how flat the yield curve is coming into any policy changes. So pretty much what this is saying and what people are going to be talking about this week, depending on what Powell does, everybody's going to be looking at the yield curve, because right now we're historically at the lowest point. We have the flattest yield curve while the Fed is about to start a tightening process, which means that the window is going to be a lot smaller. Pretty much there's usually a lot more meat on the bone when they start either tapering or raising rates. So if they do announce anything like that today, this will be the shortest in history, and people are pretty much going to be watching the yield curve. So watch out for any of those headlines that will be important this week, or if there's going to be any wild reaction, you're probably going to see it with bonds in the short and longer ends of the curve. But coming into my expectation, I'm expecting we're going to get volatility this week right after Powell on Wednesday. The market knows what to expect, so we're going to have to factor that in. But pretty much the bigger that Powell surprises, the more likely we're going to get a bigger response. Essentially, if he tweaks the tapering too much, people are expecting him to double the pace, but if he does anything beyond that people weren't expecting, then it might start to signal that he made a policy error, or the very fact that he's worried. So if he goes on beyond just doubling, one notch above tapering, that will be worrisome. But now here's the next key: as long as the tapering stuff is expected, the market may actually move on from that very quickly. If Powell could kind of walk this taper tightrope and find a way to speed it up, not say anything that would, scare people, then we're going to get over that. But now the real next question, and this is leading into next year, what is the rate schedule going to look like? Is he going to hint now at more raising rates, and is he going to be more hawkish to that? That will probably be the unexpected part that could probably shake markets. And again, the bigger the tweak, the bigger the response, the bigger the assumption of what it means for the future. So Powell is going to be the main event this week. We got to watch out for that. There will be some economic data. You're going to be getting retail sales, I believe, on Wednesday, producer prices, import prices, industrial production, business inventories. There's also going to be housing starts in the housing index. So a lot of economic data. I think retail sales will be the next important stuff. And given the CPI and all of that, these producer prices, all of that stuff, it could tell us stuff. But for the most part, it's really going to hinge on Powell. So coming into the company news and events now, again, Airbnb, Fortnite, Datadog, Palo Alto, and Lucid, as well as Zscaler, they are all getting added to the NASDAQ 100 starting December 17th. CERN, CDW, Checkpoint, Fox, Insight, and Trip.com, they will all be removed from the NASDAQ 100. So the NASDAQ 100 is the QQQ. So that's going to be fun. We're going to watch how that plays out. Again, watch for that deadline or the date of it, December 17th. And then Apple, they announced the release of iOS 15.2. This is the one that kind of, shocks some people with the privacy, but it's going to be including the scanning of nude photos on children's messaging accounts to make sure that people aren't doing anything shady there. So that launch is coming. We'll see how the stock plays out. Then TSMC, there's news of them being in early talks with the German government over a new potential plant. So we'll see how that plays out. They are negotiating like subsidies, taxes, and a couple of other things, but any sort of chip news, we'll see if it wakes them up this week. Then XOM, ExxonMobil, they scored that first batch of U.S. oil from the strategic reserve. So they're going to be getting 4.8 million barrels from the reserves. And then there's going to also be another oil sale on December 17th for an additional 18 million barrels. Then Ford, they announced that they're going to be boosting their production of the Mach-E by 3 times next year to meet demand. They said that they are expecting over 200,000 units next year or per year till 2023 in North America and Europe. So that was that positive news. Again, even last week, they had a lot of good headlines, even with the F-150. So we'll see how that one plays out. Then the G7 foreign ministers, they warned Russia again to de-escalate its military buildup near Ukraine, or they will face massive consequences. It seems like if you do see something like this, I said watch towards January, but here's the thing to keep an eye out for is the consequences. Seems like a lot of them are talking about banning them from banking and going a very extreme financial route. So that one may end up having some economic plays with it, but we'll keep our eye out for that. And then that news, this one's starting to break a little bit now. South African president has tested positive for coronavirus. He's only mildly ill, so we'll see how the headlines take that tomorrow. And then India's Prime Minister Modi, he had his Twitter account hacked, and it falsely tweeted out that India has adopted Bitcoin as legal tender and that they bought the coin. So that is not true. They came out and, went over that, but all of the cryptos are up. I don't know if it's from that news, but we already went over the plays. So as far as everything else, a couple more stocks I'm going to be watching. Like I said, Broadcom, they were an earnings winner, but these are one of the high margin ones. So that play got clapped on the fat finger. If I got filled at the price, I would have done good, but I still overall like this. I may even double dip. I'm going to watch them again. A lot is going to depend on this week. Then Costco, they went up. Even the options post earnings started to climb. So I like that. That's a good sign. I would watch them tomorrow as well. Then Microsoft, it finally had that pickup there that I was talking about where they could kind of be that safe haven. So they did good. The premiums are all starting to jump now. So watch them tomorrow to be a leader. Same thing with Apple. And this one was crazy. We even had that one weekly put that went down a little bit. But the one thing I was watching, if you remember that one play that we had like the April 235s, I believe. But these were the plays that we sold out, but we sold out of these at 121. So even though the stock went up 30%, the option was still at the same price. So keep your eye out for that and some of the volatility, but their leader, again, short-term contracts or near the money are the ones that are going to profit you on there. Then Oracle, we rolled over to that one. Good post-earnings. Again, the stock moves a little bit weird, but hopefully we could get a play. I rolled over a small portion. Then Ford, I'm really liking. Even watched GM at the same time. They had a lot of good news. Open Door, they got a Barron's recommendation over the weekend. Kind of after the Zillow fallout and all of that. So they've sold off. We got clapped on some of those options, but I'll keep an eye out for them. Then Roblo, they had a partnership or the first metaverse fashion show by Ralph Lauren or something like that, but gonna be watching them. I even had that put play from last week. I want to see to protect because if not, it may be good towards the end of the year and run. Essentially, if it doesn't drop from here, I think it's going to be able to do a lot of big moves. So watch them. Rivian, they're announcing that plant in Georgia this week, an automotive manufacturing plant. So keep your eye out for that. I don't have a play on that one. Then Walmart, they picked up over the last 2 days with the market kind of doing nothing. I mean, watch the premiums there. Remember, they've been a lot cheaper since post earnings, but this one does look a little bit decent there. Going to watch them. And then Baba, just any China headlines, they're hanging out here. I mean, you've seen this before. It's either going to bounce or if it slowly starts to slip again, I mean, don't forget about that. We had a lot of other headlines. And then finally, TLT and the dollar. I mean, I don't know what to tell you this week. I mean, you can see how everything's holding up. It's going to be all about Powell. If he's more hawkish than not, the rates should go down. So TLT essentially should go up if he is very, very hawkish. But again, now, here's the counterintuitive example. I'm saying that the rates should go up. TLT should go up because that is what the yield curve is kind of showing right now. With the fact is we're getting that flattening. If they start raising the short term, people are going to price in a shorter cycle. It was like that weekend video. TLT should go up with that. But now, looking at the 2013 taper tantrum, the rates actually shot up there. So then it's a question of inflation worries versus Powell's action. It's either pretty much policy error. If that's what you get out of the Fed, TLT will go up. If it ends up being people more worried about inflation rather than policy error, then TLT will go down. But this is one thing I'll tell you for this week, watch for the false move. So pretty much after the report a day or two, it's probably going to bounce in the opposite way that it will end up going. We'll take a few days and then we will get our final move, and you have to wait for it to break above or below. That's when we'll probably get some crazy reactions, and watch out for the lead up in the 2 days prior to the Fed meeting. So I hope you're ready. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet on. I need you to remember, maybe you a survivor. But the Cole loves you. I love you. I will see you in the morning. Let's go.